What happened?
I don't know. How did I crack it twice?
I don't know.
All right. Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever applies to you. This is 35 millimeter live.
I don't know how we did that the first time with freaking Patrick.
With four of us. It took forever too. No, that was with Kyle. Yeah. I'm your host, DJ. And of course, as always, I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Mike.
Hello.
Oh, we didn't give you time to set up your language.
That's fine.
I apologize.
I didn't set up my language ever, dude.
That's true. We just wing it.
Always.
So this episode is an episode for Mike and I to catch up with each other, see how we're doing. Mike and I don't, we talk every once in a while outside of work and lens borrowing and all that kind of stuff, but we don't like hang out too much outside of work. And even though we want to, it's honestly because when we have these episodes, it's nice to catch up with each other and actually talk. So
it is.
We actually, can take you on that journey.
Our Tuesdays like our venting days.
Yeah, no, literally.
That's what comes up on the podcast now.
And I definitely have a lot
of life updates. Ow. It's going to be a fun couple of episodes with just us two. We are finally doing our draft for lenses.
Hooray.
So this...
We've been talking about this. We've been talking about this since we were at my house.
I know. It's been crazy. Since episode like 10.
Yeah, buddy. Cool.
But we'll be doing prime lenses today.
Yes.
And then next week's going to be zoom lenses. And these are definitely just our opinions on what's going on. Or our opinions on what lenses are best.
Right. And there's going to be a lot of things that fall into this category. Yeah. Prices, diversibility.
Oh, I have my whole list of things that... Look at this. I came prepared with notes.
Outstanding.
So I put Sony or brand equivalent. So like Fuji does have a different focal range, but it's going to be equivalent. We're going to be tackling like some criteria would be like reliability, affordability, variety of what you can get with the shot. And then like a question that I would ask myself is how long does it stay on my camera body or how long does it live in my bag? Aperture capabilities, what f-stop does it go lowest to?
So I have
brand equivalents. Yeah.
So if we're talking about like the 24 to 105 and 24 to 105 is pretty much a staple for every single camera. But if we're talking about that lens and then you have maybe you have a crop sensor and you're like, oh, we'll have the 18 to 70 or whatever like your version is.
Whatever the math.
Whatever the math works out. It'd be the same. I mean, because we talked about it, crop sensors generally maybe about 1.4 times magnification depending on which one you're using. So, so just keep that in mind as we're going through the lenses.
But before we do that, life updates. How's life been? Because mine's been pretty crazy too.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm glad. So you guys see the content that we're trying to push out all the time. Mike is working very hard to do the video and stuff like that. And I have had a lot of stuff going on in my business life lately. So not too much change in my personal life, but business life has a lot of changed. And so Nissan and Harley are two of my clients already. A couple episodes ago, I remember talking about the soccer team and how I was hoping to be part of that. Well, they did bring me on. I am officially their photographer. Yes, thank you.
Congratulations.
But they also brought me on their sales team.
Oh, wow.
So I go out and look for sponsors. Yep. So I got Nissan to sponsor the soccer team. I'm currently working on Harley as well. I'm working on GSR. I'm working on Sony. I'm working on a whole bunch of big projects. And it's good because it helps me build a relationship with the team. And the staff. And if you guys didn't know, there used to be a soccer team here in Reno, and they played at the Aces Stadium. Yep. They played at the Aces Stadium. There was some kind of disconnect there apparently, and they stopped going there. And then the football team disbanded. I want to say it was around 2020. COVID, I'm sure, had a big part to do with it too. So now fast forward into the last couple of years, and Battleborn Football Club has started to make its way in. They have a couple really, really, well, all the players are very good, like don't get me wrong. But they have a specific D1 player, Marco Chang, came all the way from Canada.
Nice.
And he put a post on Facebook. He's like, hey, we're looking for a photographer. And I was like, I'm a photographer. And so I messaged him. We talked on the phone that night. He invited me out to one of the games. I met the staff, immediately bonded with everybody. And then bam, you're a photographer. Well, easy peasy, cool. And there was other people that were showing up and stuff. So, but the cool thing about this team is that while they're a Premier League right now, so they're technically semi-pro, once the stadium is being built, which is what I'm helping build, they will be
They will be
a
you're
professional
help
team.
Build the stadium.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. So like sponsors, like the money and kind of stuff. Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, there's all kinds of stuff that's going on this. But the cool thing about it is, as of right now, if you're driving towards North Valleys and you take that exit like you're going to TMCC,
and
if you go left, there's the sheriff's station and the prison, right? So right across the street from there So if you're driving and the sheriff station is going to be on your right-hand side, if you make a left at that gas station, that hill right there is being leveled a little bit, and the stadium is going right on there. There's That's 3 dope. Stadiums. One of them is going to be coverable for winter, 2 outdoor. They're going to be doing training camps. They're going to be doing tournaments. They're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. They have bids in the air for naming rights for the stadium.
Good.
Sponsorships, bringing in like everything you can think of is happening. And as soon as that stadium is built, they will be considered a professional team, which means they're going to be playing against. Eventually, they could be playing against teams like, Messi's team or
Miami FC. Heck
exactly, yeah. So, and that's huge. Traveling, all that kind of stuff, all the perks that come with it. To get in on the ground level on something like this is absolutely insane to me. And eventually, we are going to be looking for. I am going to be putting together a staff, 1 maybe 2 other photographers and 1 maybe 2 videographers. Nice. And of course, you are going to be on that list.
Yes.
So, if you want that opportunity, it's there. They're working on like a documentary showing everything, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. So there's that. So you're gonna hear me talk about, if I say BBFC or Battleborn, that's what I'm talking about. It's the soccer team that I'm a part of. So we have all kinds of options. If you're listening to this and you would like to help contribute or sponsor anything like that, please let me know directly. I will help you get in line with that. I'm not going to plug it too much, but just know that it's a big thing in my life. I grew up playing soccer, so it's huge for me. That's exciting. And then in 1 week, I'm going to Pacific Coast Highway with a client and another friend of mine who used to be in the tour company with me in Hawaii. We are doing a run all the way from Portland to Coos Bay to Klamath, California, Roanoke Park, and then driving to San Francisco, back to Roanoke Park, and then hitting the same places on the way up. And we're doing
Highway 1, huh?
Yep. And I'm teaching in photography. And then after each time, like we sitting at dinner, we go to the hotel room, then we're going to go over editing. That way he has stuff to put out immediately. There's a lot of stuff that I'm going to work with him, and having my buddy who also is a professional photographer that also does photo expeditions. He used to be on cruise ships. He's done expeditions in Antarctica,
That's awesome.
And a whole bunch of other places. He's going to be joining. So he's paying me daily for all this stuff. I'll be gone for 7 days. 2 on the end is traveling, 5 in the middle for shooting and classes. And Brian's there just as like an added bonus, because Brian and I are trying to start a kind of like a luxury photo expedition company.
Is that Brian from...
Brian Doyle from, he's on my Instagram.
Oh, okay.
He used to work for me.
There's a lot of Brians, so.
There's a lot of Brians. Maggie is just tearing you up.
I know. Maggie.
Is she biting you?
No, she's got her claws out.
She's feisty. At least she's not in heat anymore.
No, but now she's just aggressive and pokey.
So that's pretty much
Hayes and Neasels. Oh.
That's pretty much it for me. What's going on with you?
So I worked weird shifts for my job. I was working like a 10 to 10 for a while. That was real fun. I worked a graveyard shift, which I survived. That was cool. But yeah, we're recording. Yay. Hi, 7 minutes in.
Oh, the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you can just airdrop it to me so we don't say it out loud, or I'll just censor it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, my work schedule's been weird. Been working off shifts. Like it's so strange. Oh, Maggie, you unplugged my computer.
Oh, that's nice of her.
That's okay.
Real mature cat. Real mature.
Yeah.
Thought we were friends.
I know. She's been trying to pick on me while I try to speak about my life. She's like, no, I don't want to hear about your life. Yeah, work's been wild. A lot of changes at the workplace. But I've been doing a couple of senior sessions recently.
Nice. Yeah, I've seen some of this stuff.
They've been starting to blow up.
Super good.
So I'm just starting to get followers. I finally hit 600 on Instagram.
Let's go.
Milestones. I'll just continue to plug those milestones. I did a giveaway for the first time, so I got to shoot a couple as a giveaway present.
That's awesome.
So at 600, I did a little giveaway. It was really cool.
Nice.
30-minute mini sessions. Thanks, Callie.
You listening? Yeah.
Yeah, because actually minis are really fun. Especially so they had never modeled ever before. So it was super incredible, just hey, you guys post this way. Super cute couple. The weather fit perfectly with how they are. They're kind of like a goth couple.
Oh, okay.
So the gloomy weather started to blow in.
Sure.
And we're just this is perfect weather. I was if it rains, are you guys okay? We're we love the rain.
We love it.
Shoot in the rain. But
Bring on the rain.
Finally hit 600. That's a huge milestone. Getting bookings more for photography on the outside. And that's pretty much it. Family reunion coming up. We're going to have 95 of us.
Ooh.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday this week.
Doesn't be Saturday. Oh, it's a 3-day thing. Nice.
Yeah, so the Friday's like I know she's going crazy. Friday is like a meet and greet because we haven't seen each other in a long time. So it's gonna have the hello, my name is, and fun facts about ourselves.
How many people coming from Philippines?
None. A lot of us are U.S.
Oh, okay, cool.
So Hawaii.
Before anybody comes for me, that was a genuine question.
Yeah. No.
You
just assume that I have family. I do, but a lot of them just can't fly out. So, dude, she's having a time of her life with your hair, man.
Yeah. She's like, oh, this
is wonderful.
You act like you miss me or something, Kat. I'm just saying.
Joel,
I'm gonna kidnap your cat one of these nights. He's gonna come in and she's gonna be gone.
Well, it's good that she doesn't have her claws out because she was retracting those things like crazy.
Oh no, they're
out now. Yeah, well, I can see them.
The ones that you don't see are in my back still. So they're like she left them there. No, dude, that's super awesome. And like all of the guests we brought it up to have mentioned, you 100% could do this full time. 100%.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's a scary leap for sure.
Yep.
I actually got asked, kind of on that same topic. I got asked to go back to my high school, and one of the teachers that I had made friends with and stayed friends with, she's a photographer, and she's teaching a photography class at the high school, and she asked me to come in and kind of, talk to the class and show them that there is a future in photography, that kind of stuff, answer questions, whatever, and I'll bring my pictures. And I love doing that kind of stuff, and whenever I get invited to do that stuff, especially for schools, I do it for free.
Yeah.
Because I get to sit around and brag on myself for an hour.
Literally ego boost.
Literally, yeah, absolutely. I've done talking seminars in front of like HOAs and stuff like that. New people, that kind of stuff, and I charge for those. But when it comes to like school, like high school, middle school, whatever, like I always do this for free because I want more kids to get into photography.
The passion comes out, right?
No, exactly. Oh no, for sure. There should never be like a fear of like, oh, I don't want people to learn this photography, but no, you should absolutely never like share the wealth. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I think they have the greatest opportunity right now because, well, the iPhone 15 just came out, and if we're just gonna go into photography news real quick, little plug, quick photography news. The iPhone 15 camera is insane.
So on the Pro 4 or the Pro 4X, sorry, I'm in Nissan mode. On the the iPhone 15 Pro Max has one additional upgrade to the lens. So if you guys, and I was actually just talking to Mom about this, you get a titanium body,
which has been having issues with people, but
understandable. I mean, it's a whole new thing. But titanium, I think the texture also changed a little bit, so it's less slip. And the camera upgrade is only available on the 15 Pro Max as of right now. Right. So there are many other upgrades, but those are the biggest ones. So I'm just telling you guys this. If you guys have the 14, it's not worth the upgrade right now. No. Wait for it. Wait for the 15S if it's going to come out, or wait for the 16.
Yes.
I love Apple, and I will. This is a hill that I will. Both of us.
Yeah.
This is a hill we both will die on. I will run Apple forever. I've ran other phones. I've ran other computers. I'm not just saying this just because I'm being a fanboy. Love it, but last couple iPhones have been a little too close for the sticker price. I will mention though that the lower end models are a little bit cheaper than the lower end models for the 14.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yep.
But I believe the top end, the 15 Pro Max is the same as the 14 Pro Max.
Yeah.
So then you're just paying for the memory at that point.
Right.
And
I think when they fix all the bugs and get the body stabilized and not cracking or anything bending, like all that news about Apple having crappy bodies right now is like killing the market, I think. People will still buy because everybody wants the upgrades.
Of course.
And I think when they really improve it, I think for the 16, I hope they keep the same style and kind of just fix the bugs of what the 15 are.
I do too.
Like the camera ProRes, how it shoots in RAW, and then you can color grade it with their Apple ProRes color grading. It looks really good.
Yeah. And
also the telephoto on the thing, the zoom is kind of nuts.
And handheld stabilization for video.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the 14 as well.
Yeah.
But that's insane.
It's to an extreme on the iPhone 15.
Yes. It's over. Like in my opinion, it's more than you need.
Yeah. For anybody that has a phone. Yeah. It's not really phone. It doesn't feel like a phone anymore.
Right.
It's like a mini camera plus computer. I can dial people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I can text somebody. Yeah.
And I mean, this is a perfect size for me, so.
Yeah, if we're talking about perfect sizes, this is perfect.
Yeah, it is. If you're listening and you're not watching the YouTube video, we're talking about our phones.
Yeah. I know people would get that mixed up. I saw a video about that, like the zoom. Mm-hmm. They were watching a Yankees game from right field, and they zoomed into the pitcher's mound, and it was clear as day. I'm like, this is nuts for what's going into our pockets. Like, why can we even trust that?
Well, it's like as the stuff goes on more and more, we can't overlook the fact that. So, it was the Writers Guild finally broke their strike.
Yes,
which is huge because that means late night TV shows back on.
Yeah, finally.
And if you guys didn't know about it, it's not specifically because of pay, because those late night writers they get paid well because they give really good content, and that's great. But if from what I was reading or listening to, I was watching a video on it, a couple videos. The biggest point of contingency in this strike was the use of AI.
Yeah,
using things like ChatGPT and all that kind of stuff to create jokes and all that kind of stuff. And can it do it? Yeah, of course it can. Sure, absolutely. Right. But in my mind, AI scares everybody. We all grew up watching Terminator, Skynet, all that kind of stuff. But when the grandfather of AI, the guy that invented it, that made a legacy in life for himself, walks away from it,
he's like, no, I don't want it anymore.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you? Why?
Right.
And for photographers and videographers, AI is very scary because it is getting. I mean, even
Photoshop right now is
it's insane.
Oh,
and Fronos even was like, good old Gerald Poland. He was like, he made a video and it shows like a tombstone with his name on it. Because AI, I mean, it's that scary. You know what I mean? Like, but
it has its perks.
It does.
I know, like for a lot of us that shoot portraits and we accidentally crop in too tight, and we want some of that background to come back. That instead of photoshopping and stamp cloning everything, it's generative fill.
Yep.
And it works pretty well. But when you start to modify, I think I saw a picture of Banff, and they put a cabin in the middle of the lake. Like, why? There's already beauty within the nature that's there. Like, why modify it anymore? Because
I mean, at that point, you don't even have to try and get the shot. You just get a shot.
You get a shot, yeah.
And I don't like it.
Which takes me back. Okay, here, Peter McKinnon. I'm gonna shout you out. All hail Peter McKinnon. His most recent video of him shooting in Arizona is inspirational.
Yeah.
He literally, like, he does still shoot digital. He still shoots digital, but his main primary focus right now is film.
Right.
And the colors that he's been getting and the stuff that he's been putting out has been monumentally different than the stuff that he's done digitally.
Right.
And his digital stuff is fantastic. The film stuff just hits. I think there's a core to every photographer that's like, this is what photography really is.
Right.
So if you haven't watched the video yet, like, go and watch that, because the shots that he's been getting, I got to find the quote that he says in there. Like, it's something about not just getting a photo, but like creating something else. Sure. I got to get the full quote. I'll look it up before the next episode.
I think it's a really good point, though, that if you look at it from a mental juxtaposition of the topic here, like you have the world fearing we're on the edge of like an AI takeover when it comes to photography. And then you have some of the biggest names in photography, Peter McKinnon, deciding to shoot film.
Yeah.
So like AI takes away from the whole, this is a once in a lifetime shot. To you using film cameras again and now forcing that back into you know what I mean?
This
like
is a once in a lifetime shot.
Exactly. And you're fighting the system in that way. And I absolutely love it, because I'll admit my Canon A1 and my Yashica they're sitting on my shelf right next to my bed.
Same. I have my AU1 just sitting. So
they're separate from my digital. They're separate from my camera collection because I do want to use them. But I'll be honest, like with as busy as it's been, it's hard for me to shoot the film and then turn it in to get developed and then wait for it. But I love that. I get on him. Everybody that talks crap about him, like, I mean, I just let it off my back, whatever, because it's all opinions. Who cares? But I think that's great that he's doing that.
Right.
And film, especially with Fuji, doing the film sims.
And I think glorious. For us, I actually brought something in for us to kind of challenge ourselves. Ooh. I don't know if we have the battery or the charger for it, but let me grab that and plug in my laptop. DJ, you can rant about Maggie just clawing you in the back.
I like ranting.
I am ranting.
I am the rant. So you guys heard the last episode we were talking about drones with Kyle. Kyle sent me, I need to send you the video so you can see it, buddy. Mm-hmm. Kyle sent me his most recent video. It's a Halloween style video for United Nissan. And it's cheesy in all the right ways.
Like it'll hit, but it's funny.
We're talking like cheese. Dress ups, like because Frankenstein's in it, and he's like it's nice. Cheesy in such an amazing way. And I absolutely love it, and I can't wait to see how the video comes out the week that I helped shoot. The last couple ones for Nissan for the Frontier and for the Aria. Which reminds me also, when I post this video on the podcast platforms, and when you post the video, I'm going to leave a phone number on there, and that phone number goes to Nissan. All you guys have to do is text that number, and you have to be local, unfortunately, so you got to be in the Reno area or willing to drive. You text the number your name. It'll say, what's your email? And then you give it your email, and then it says, what do you drive? And you put it in, and that's just a survey for us. But essentially what happens at the end of the season for the soccer team, we're going to draw one name. Whoever we draw gets a free 2-year lease on a 2023 Frontier or a 2023 Aria. So I've had several people, and I try to talk to them, and they're like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, oh, yeah, free car. That's a horrible idea. Why would you even want to try it? Guys, it's free. It costs you nothing. Yeah. You can send the number to your family and friends. I don't care. There's no limitation, anything like that for households. Just it's a gift from Nissan. Right. And it's trying to get, people to come and hang out for, the soccer games and to realize that Nissan and, the soccer team, they're a good partnership. So, I'll put that in there. And if you guys don't see it for whatever reason, just send me a message and I will send it to you. I feel like she's going to bite me.
I know. She's been clawing at me too. I have these little point and shoots.
Oh yeah. An XLM.
So an XLM, a little Kodak.
Yeah, buddy.
I was thinking.
They're adorable.
Why don't we?
Photo challenge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take one of these.
Outstanding. I love this.
For a little bit. And we will.
You do know it's not really fair. Like I'm about to go.
I know.
Highway 1.
Have you seen the skies recently?
That's true. They have been fired.
They have been literally fired.
And I have not been able to shoot any of them.
I know. I haven't either. But I think it'd be a really fun, creative way just to get us out of our digital space.
Yeah.
And it has I don't know if you have the charging port for it. You probably will.
Well, as I say, it doesn't turn on, so.
I know.
You're already an advantage right there.
Mine doesn't either.
Oh, there's a memory card near it. Oh, you know how funny it would have been if this is my memory card?
It's 1 gigabyte.
So if you guys don't know, this is a very real thing. I knew it. If you guys have an older
1 gigabyte,
if you guys have an older camera like this, I'm talking 2000, even 2010, 2005, and older. If it's a digital camera, you put a memory in there, anything larger than 1 gig, it's not going to register that it's in there at all because that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
So 1 gig, good to go. I had that lady come in. I told you she's like, oh, I can only take 2 pictures. And I was like, that's weird because she had a 512 megabyte SD card in there.
Yeah. This Kodak is a 5 megapixel camera. So we'll see how we get along. Dude, we'll just take a couple shots. I don't even know how to. We'll have some fun.
I might have that port, maybe.
I might have this port. Maybe. So
which one's yours?
Well, I don't know.
Do you have this one?
I have a little circular one, but I also have that one, which I don't even know. We'll see.
We'll figure it out.
If we don't, then we just have these little doohickeys.
And we are also going to start on that note. This is a great idea. I love this.
Heck of fun.
On that note, we're also going to start opening up competitions for you guys.
Yes, dude. So, finally.
We've been brainstorming on prizes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We talked about sending you guys one of our pictures and things like that. I plan on everybody that enters, whoever the winner is, I'm going to draw a name out and whichever name I draw out. So it's only going to be a pool of the winners from each one. Whichever name I draw out, I'm going to send a copy of my new coffee table book.
I'm so excited for that.
So me too. I really am. I have 3 pre-orders, 4 pre-orders for it already, and I haven't even started. I literally have not started actually making the book yet. I have 4 pre-orders for it, which is
free pre-orders,
which is awesome. You guys are all amazing. I really appreciate that. If you guys are interested and you guys bought my first one, the Founders Edition, there was it's a 50 edition run. If you guys bought one of the first 50. You guys get a discount on the new one, and that discount continues all the way through however many I make. If you didn't buy the first one, totally okay, but the price will be different for the new one. So if you bought the first one, The new one is going to be $200. If you didn't buy it, it's going to be $300. No, the price isn't going up because I think my shit is amazing and it's worth all that. It's because it's becoming very expensive to make these. So I want to keep making these, but because the cost of the price to make it goes up, I unfortunately have to charge more so that I can still, pay bills. So there you go. You guys have any questions too? Let me know. I still have 4 of the first edition from the first one from Hawaii as well. So if you guys wanted one of the last 4 Founders editions, let me know and I will send you one.
Heck yeah.
All
right. You ready to draft?
Let's draft. So how this is going to work.
We have our picks for like the number 1 seed through the 8th seed. We're doing like a Sweet 16.
And these are not in order. When you name these up, these are not in any order.
So we have the 1 seed versus the 8th seed, the 3 seed versus the 6th seed, 2 seed versus the 7th seed, 5 seed versus the 4th seed. And then whoever wins that will go on. You know how brackets work.
Yep.
If you don't know, watch basketball or football.
Sweet 16.
I don't know. Do something with your life that's not photography.
How dare you not know about sports? I'm pretty limited when it comes to sports too. I keep like touching this.
It's a cookie.
And I know. I'm very excited about it. Where's the cookie from?
Old World Coffee.
Ooh, fancy.
That's where I was doing this draft. It's crispy.
Oh,
they put the little crispy bit on the end. She was like, the person that served me was like, I don't want to give you that cookie because it has a crispy bit. I was like, okay. And then she gave me another one. She's like, do you want to keep that one for free? I was like, I know who to give this to. So there you go.
Perfect.
All right.
So
our number, this was I guess it's kind of my bias because I kind of made the list, but I think we can almost agree at what's going to go down.
I have a feeling one of 2 lenses is going to win.
I know. I have, but when I shot, we'll get to zoom lenses
next episode.
I can't talk about zoom because I've been experimenting a lot with zoom recently.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah. So I love prime.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
I
love
absolutely.
prime, but zoom has a place in my heart. Okay, prime lenses. The number 1 versus the number 8, I have as the 35 millimeter to the 8th seed would be the 100 millimeter macro.
Yep.
So that's our first debacle.
It's actually a very difficult start. Also, if you guys are wondering, prime lenses means they don't zoom in and out. You're at a fixed focal length. They're beneficial because you have less elements inside the lens, which means, so the more pieces of glass between the sensor and where the light is entering the camera, entering the lens, the more elements, which are pieces of glass, mirror, all that kind of stuff, depending on what you're shooting, degrades the color quality and light quality just ever so slightly. It's barely noticeable, to be honest, but there is an advantage to shooting with prime lenses in that aspect. And a lot of them are specifically designed at each focal length to specialize in a certain thing.
Right.
Zoom lenses are great, obviously, because usually that single focus, that focal length is inside of that, but you have extra weight. But price goes back and forth depending on Tamron.
Right.
Depends on
and we'll
Sigma.
definitely get to those pricings. Yeah. So let's start with the 100 millimeter macro as the 8th seed. I don't really have the knowledge because I don't really shoot macro. You want to explain to the people what macro prime means?
That was my leg. So macro, I do shoot a lot of macro. I love macro.
Because you do, what kind of shots are those? The ones in the light boxes and everything?
Product photography.
Product
So stuff, I do a lot of product photography. It's also good for certain kinds of wildlife. If you guys seen my close-up of the gecko, you can see each scale. If you look really close on his eye, you can actually see me taking a picture of him. So macro lenses generally are going to allow you to be a bit closer to your subject, and you're going to get a lot more high detail out of these pictures too.
Yes.
In my very, very personal opinion, my 100 millimeter macro from the Canon, my 5D Mark IV, which is the DSLR, the mirrored one, I have not found a macro lens that beats that yet. And that includes Sony. And you guys know I love Sony. I still have my adapter to go from EF glass to Sony's glass specifically because of this 100 millimeter macro.
Right.
I use it for my product photography for like some of the marijuana shots that I took for one of the dispensaries. Wildlife, I used to use it for portraits too. It does really well for that. You can see like every detail in their face,
which is wild.
And the fall off is immediate because it starts at 2.8 too. So that's macro lenses can be used for generally are going to be used for your high detail shots, product, plants, like floral, that kind of stuff, and lightly you can be used on portraits. But those are generally going to be the best things there. So there are many different kinds. There's also a 105 macro as well. Mm-hmm. I know the 105 is on here, but I think that's the non-macro.
Non-macro, yeah.
And there's also the 90 millimeter that Sony has. That's also a macro.
Those are very close ranges, so
they're very
really
close
in that range.
So we just kind of short it all into one. As it's the macro prime.
Macro prime, yeah. At that 2.8 2, you're pretty much golden. Yeah, I don't think you need to go anything less than that.
Well, it's kind of unnecessary, especially with how easy it is to focus stack nowadays.
Right.
So focus stacking makes everything easier in that aspect. Taking several pictures. Focus stacking is taking several pictures, focusing slightly further into the back of the subject or vice versa, however you want to do it, back to front. Some camera systems allow you to do it in camera now. Mm-hmm. The Sony cameras, you can set up to do that, and it'll go click, 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 and it takes all those together. It doesn't stitch them together for you in camera, but you have all those pictures to layer together in Lightroom or Photoshop later on.
Right.
Which is cool. So focus stacking is awesome. But yeah, 2.8 is perfect.
And if we're talking about pricings, I'm looking at the Canon EF 100 macro at $1,099. Mm-hmm. Pretty decent. If you want it refurbished and used, I found one for $294. Pretty good. Not bad. So, I mean, macro, if you're really into, it has its place, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, really good. 35 millimeter. It's
classic.
The name of our podcast.
Right.
35 millimeter life.
That goes back
to the film lenses. That goes back to everything that it's almost like the basis of photography.
I agree.
35 used for a lot of portraitures. You can use it's really versatile in its use. Mm-hmm. It's not really necessarily for portraits, but if I was to use a prime, that would be one of my choices.
Agreed.
You have the chance to go from aperture 1.2, 1.4, 1.8, varying in different price points. The lower the aperture, the more like the 1.2, you're probably paying a little bit more.
And it's going to be a little heavier.
A little bit heavier. It's just a lot of glass.
Especially like the 1.2s. That's Sigma?
Right. I know. The Sigma, Sigma, good. we love, and yeah, we love our Sigma glass. Mm-hmm. And
that's my only other than Canon, that's my only non-Sony glass that I have.
If they could really sponsor us, I'd love Sigma sponsorship. Their art glass, the 1.4, 1.2, really good. It's to compare the two. I mean, I'm just going off of like the 35 to the 100. 35, I think, will have more variety. You will shoot a lot more things.
Versatility is definitely
there. Right. If we're talking about how much it would live in my bag or in my camera, I think it would be a staple versus the 100 millimeter.
It would. And price point, but on price point, it's generally a good 35 millimeters can be more expensive than 100.
Right.
So that's, I mean, but now you're just comparing like apples to
oranges.
Yeah. So me personally, so there's another thing too. Like, so what if we decide on one, and what if one of us says one, and do we just like debate it until we come up with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. But I think we're very.
I agree. Because we've been talking about this for months.
Yeah.
My vote personally, 35 millimeter.
Yeah.
And it's not just because it's a name.
No.
And I love the 100 millimeter macro, but I only reach for the 100 millimeter if I'm doing specific tasks.
Specific, yeah.
35, my 35 mil that I have, that's in my bag. If I'm doing a portrait shoot and I like you 24 to 70, I'm like, no, just use my Sigma.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we do miss a lens and we like, why didn't you include this one? Let us know.
Yeah. There are many more lenses. But to us, these are the top 8 of both primes and zoom that he and I use the most.
Yeah.
It's not saying the other lenses aren't great, but we use these the most. So to be a subject matter expert in that specific SMA, to be in that specific thing, that's why. So don't come at us.
So the lens to compete with the 35 millimeter in the next round will be our 3 or 6 pick. The 3 I have at the 85 millimeter. Mm-hmm. And the 6 I have at the 24, I think this is going to be a really hard one to debate on.
I think, okay, but here's another thing too is, man, I'm thinking about it, like, should we have done like, no, that would have been too hard. If we just
it would have been really hard. Like yeah. Because I think if we're deciding on glass, we're going to see the versatility on what we want to shoot, right? Because both of us shoot both. Mm-hmm. Primarily, I think I shoot more portraiture. You being into the cars and product stuff and landscape, you've done everything. So you have the wider range of lenses. But I think
this is going to be hard, this one.
This one's going to be hard because focal length wise, I like the compression of an 85. The Sigma, going back to the Sigma, 85 1.4, the art lens is incredible. Mm-hmm. the bokeh, the softness of the skin, the way it, just everything about that lens.
The light quality.
Yeah. It's heavy.
No, that could be a murder weapon.
It's a monster.
It was Mike in the kitchen with the 85 millimeter.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's nuts. It's heavy. Like, I can do barbell curls with that for days and I'll be jacked.
And let's not forget too, event photography with this is great because you can stand back a bit more, especially with Sony's retinal tracking for the eye tracking, pinpoint sharp on the bride, or whoever. Like
bride, you can do concert photography.
Speeches, you can stand back further instead of standing in front of everybody and just tack onto that person, and and that's great. But it is heavy.
That's the very, very downfall of the 85. I think
a good one is heavy.
Right. I think I put this at the 3 because there is another lens outside of this that falls into the 2, but I use this.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I use this a lot more than like a zoom. It lived on my stolen body for a long time.
Yeah,
it was my go-to when I did portraits. I think the downfall as a portrait photographer is the distance. Yep. You have to stand pretty far away, and if you're like me, my voice doesn't carry, so I'm like, hey, can you get over there? Like, like I'm almost yelling.
Right.
So I guess that's a downfall, but quality is hard to beat.
It is. I mean, and that's another thing too, is like, there's so many different versions of the 85 millimeter out there, different companies, different quality build, things like that. The Sigma and the Tamron are different. So
I don't even know about the Sony native glass for the 85.
So the 85 for Sony, actually, I wanted to check on that too while we're here, because there was a couple lenses that Sony was teasing about, and it was something that I was waiting for, because like I didn't buy the 85 because they were talking about the version 2 coming out. All right.
So if we're talking about the 1.8, I'm just looking at it right now. The 1.8 goes for $600 at Best Buy.
Right. And the
relatively good.
And that's both for FE too. So and that's about run of the mill. Now, the 1.4 GM goes for about $1,150. The G Master 85 1.4, so that's both. Oh, that one's used. So brand new is, you're looking at $1,799.
Yeah, and then if you're going with the art lens for Sony,
$437.
You're looking,
Now, Aaron and I spent a lot of time with the 35 millimeter, 85 millimeter comparing between Sony, because I had a lot of choices to make when I switched from Canon to Sony. There are so many very intricate details about each one that's slightly different, and it's something that Aaron and I both agreed. Even though he shoots a whole different system than I do, he shot several systems like I have, and we both agreed on the same thing. Like, I'll be 100% honest with you. While I love GM glass, I really do. I absolutely love it. Sigma, to me, for both when I was shooting Canon EF and when I'm shooting FE for Sony, Sigma is probably like the closest quality you can get.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
It's also going to be a bit heavier.
The build quality is insane.
Completely. And it's not to say that Sony's aren't built well, but like I would trust a Sigma falling off, any of Sigma's arts falling off, as its counterpart to Sony or Canon.
Right.
Just as it is. Now, 85 mil, I agree. Standing a bit further, my voice does carry. My tour guiding, I but I yelled a lot. The fall off is really cool, but when I'm doing portraits, I enjoy the closeness that I get with somebody.
I'm in the same boat.
Intimate,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so then brings in the 24, right? Because in a 24 is super wide.
Yeah.
Like very wide. 24 is, in my opinion, 24 is going to be kind of the last focal length large enough that you're going to be going to get away from landscapes.
Right.
So anywhere from like a 10 to, I mean, even an 8, depending on what you're shooting, or a 10 millimeter all the way to 24, that's your landscape range, generally. For me.
You can get creative, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And that's another thing about primes too, is, forcing yourself to shoot only 35, focus on that per project is great. 24 millimeter for landscapes, it's a staple. It's the beginning of the 24 to 105 range, which is a staple in everybody's bag when they're starting.
Right.
24 millimeter it's just a nice, well-rounded area. It's
super
pretty wide, but kind of zoom in a little bit for that. And it's also, in my experience, 85 millimeters are generally more expensive than 24s.
Very, yeah.
And that's because they're used a lot more.
Yeah.
Versatility-wise, but they both pigeonhole themselves.
Right.
So
I think for the 85, anything like above the waist money. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to go wide, like if I'm going to go full body, I like to get up close. I like to do those almost the wide angle. 24, 35 are perfect for those full body shots. I think the 24 has a little bit too much distortion when it comes to your body type.
You get like with the
little bit of bowing.
Of yeah. That's why 35 is usually the lowest most people go.
Right. But if you're into the creative stuff, I think getting into like skateboarding, if you're going into action sports, like those fish eye type of angles, that 24 is pretty much money. We're going to talk about another lens like is a little bit lower than that. That's also very money.
But a little bit lower.
Yeah, a little bit lower.
And if you like, just to give you guys a reference, everybody's seen GoPros. Everybody's like seen like the footage. If you don't go into narrow setting a GoPro, that is a natural 10 millimeter lens,
which is nuts.
So when you're parallel with the horizon, when you're looking straight at it, it is straight like this. Yeah. But if you tilt the camera down, you'll see a bow like this. If you tilt it up, you see a bow like this. And it's just because that's the fisheye perspective. So just so you guys know, as far as range we're going,
which you won't get with anything above that. Like 85, if you tilt down or up, like
you won't notice.
You won't even notice a difference.
Like real estate photographers like to use. Like 16 to 35, right. But they have the non-distortion ones, which are NDs are much more expensive.
Right.
That's another thing too. When I say ND, usually I mean filters, but also ND is also non-distortion, and you're going to pay, from what I've noticed, an average of about $1,000 more for a non-distortion version of the same lens. Yeah. They're also going to be heavier, minus the tilt shift lenses, which are stupid expensive.
Yeah.
And that's how you get the toy effects.
Have you ever seen a tilt shift lens? It's like, I don't know how to explain it.
It looks like
literally like a hinge on your lens.
That's how you guys get the toy effect.
Yeah.
Like look at London, it looks like a toy set or whatever. It's actually become popular with wedding photography. For the detail shots, I get it, but not for like portraits. But people use it for portrait. I mean, to each their own.
Right.
Do you boo boo? But just saying.
These do have their perks or their niches.
Oh, absolutely.
The 85 very much portrait.
And the 24.
Anything out of that, it's kind of difficult.
Street photography,
which
is generally going to be. Well, I mean,
I think street photography you're going to be using a little bit longer.
Those
depending.
You could. Well, see, I like having smaller lenses. They're less intrusive.
Right.
So when I tried to get that shot in Chicago a couple weekends ago, I had my 24 to 70 because I had a little bit of zoom. Plus, I brought my R5.
Right.
So being that I was shooting at 61 megapixels, if I needed to crop in, it wasn't going to hurt the size at all. Right. In fact, I did crop one of the shots, and after cropping the shots, it was still 37 megabytes.
Yeah.
So
amazing, but memory not amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So if I had to vote this one down, though, me personally, I would have to go with the 85.
I'm also going 85. I think the aperture ranges too. Once you get to like the 1.4, the crispness, the sharpness, the butteriness of the skin, the bokeh that comes with it, the compression behind. If you're really into those blurry backgrounds, like every influencer ever now, if you've ever done like the fake zoom effect, Maggie's going in on you. You're the little, what's the claw tower thing?
The what?
The claw tower thing that the cats have. I don't know what it's
called.
Scratch
post.
Like is that what it is? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a cat.
Scratch post.
Big dog.
Our viewers wouldn't know that.
Yeah, they wouldn't know. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going 85 too.
Let me tell you guys the biggest reason why I chose the 85. The 24 millimeter is a solid lens, but there's just so many lenses out there that do it better.
Yeah.
The 85 millimeter is a very solid lens, and it's not that there's lenses that do it out there better, but it's personal preference on which one you want to use between the 35, the 50, things like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to portraits, me personally,
it lived on my camera.
35 and 85, that's it. 70-200 is great, for sure, but we're not talking about the zooms. 85 and 35, portraits, that's it. But those two are the best for portraits.
We're gonna get to the next one. I think we might even debate on if these are better portrait lenses.
Portrait lenses? All right, which one?
Okay, the number 2 seed I have versus the number 7 seed.
Nifty 50 versus the 135.
Nifty 50 versus the 135.
All right,
This is tough.
Let me start out here by saying, not a lot of people are going to be using the 135. It is not extremely niche.
But when you do use it, it's incredible.
For me, like 135 is if I'm shooting like the balloon races, right?
Yeah.
And I see like a really cool looking subject off in the distance. I don't want to be too close, but I want that compression with the stuff in the background. Absolutely, 100%. 135 is great. I mean, it's humongous compression for a prime lens. Nifty 50 is just a great all-around.
Nifty 50 you're getting for cheap. Pricing-wise, if you're going a 1.8, they're relatively cheap.
Yeah, the 1.8, the 1.4, the 1.2, those are generally staples for each one. Canon does the same thing. For Canon, for the EF, the 1.8 was going for like just under 200. The 1.4 was going for just over 200, and then the 1.2 took a huge leap to over $1,000.
Yeah.
But it's a Nifty 50. You know what I mean?
Nifty 50, they have a reason for it.
They do.
I just bought a Russian lens, the Helios.
Oh, yeah.
Just bought one of those, which is around the 50 millimeter range. I don't know what Maggie's doing.
She shook her head and like I got drenched.
Right.
You're drooling, Kat. It is disturbing.
If we're talking about aperture ranges for the 50 mil, you can go as low below a 1.
Yes.
Like a 0.09.
Yep.
Which I don't find a use for ever. But
that's
still nuts.
Nighttime, but that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're shooting at 50, so you're cutting on all of this guy anyway.
Nifty 50 was my starter lens. Like, if you ever do research on what lens you should buy first, a lot of people would recommend the Nifty 50 because it's on the cheaper side. Mm-hmm. It helps you. Oh gosh, the Jack Daniels burps. It helps you focus on composition. Right. I think it's at that range of like, hey, I can do portraits. Hey, I can maybe get into a little bit of landscape. Hey, I can do some product photography. Hey, like it'll give you like what you want to do.
Right.
I don't know. It's super reliable.
It's it's interesting that these two got matched up together because they're so completely opposites.
Right.
135 is extremely niche. Nifty 50 you can use for literally anything. Right. Price points are also the same thing. Like there's a huge variation in price depending on what you want to buy. The other thing too is like Nifty 50s also, they come in decent sized lenses and they also come in pancake lenses. Same with the 24. I didn't bring that up, but the 24 millimeter also comes in pancake lenses. They're going to be like this small.
Yeah.
And it's great for walking around. Now, let's say you're using a crop sensor, right? Your 35 mil is going to be close to your 50 on a crop.
Mm-hmm.
So people buy the 35
yeah, we're
millimeter
talking
crop.
on full frame, yeah.
Right, exactly. So if you're shooting a 35 millimeter on a crop sensor, you're shooting roughly a 50. And benefit there, you have a Nifty 50. You have a 35 millimeter lens, but you're shooting a Nifty 50 range.
And if you ever upgrade to a full frame,
it's already there.
Yeah, we're at 35.
Perfect. So me personally, for this one,
Nifty 50.
Nifty 50.
The 135, very good lens.
Yes.
Very specific. The only reason they got matched up here is because the matchup.
Honestly,
there's no Cinderella story here.
Well, I couldn't really imagine putting the 135 against any of the other ones anyway.
I think it's
maybe the 105.
I don't know how you would. I don't know. It's hard to arrange these by favoritism.
But the Nifty 50 for me, it should be in everybody's bag.
Yes.
It's cheap. It's easy to get a hold of. It should be in your bag, just ready to use. I don't have one
I don't have one anymore.
But I have my 24 to 70.
The reason why I don't have the Nifty 50 is because I find more joy in the 35 or the 85 when I shoot portraits.
Right.
The Nifty 50 was so like pushed into your brain, like, hey, you need to have this lens. Like as a starter lens, I was like, okay, great. Then I had it, and then I shot with it for a little bit, and then I felt like I got the most out of it, and I needed to move on.
Yeah.
It's such a good beginner lens, but once you're out of it, you're out of it.
It's still good for traveling. Like if you just throw a camera in there with the Nifty 50.
Right. And not to hate on the 135, but I think like once you've graduated from the Nifty 50, you'll find reasons to use the 135.
I agree.
You'll find reasons to use these other lenses that we're going to talk about because 50 is like literally the middle range of what you're going to be shooting, right? But yeah, I also agree. If it's in this matchup, we're going to do Nifty 50. And the 5 seed versus the 4 seed.
Oh.
The 105 versus the 14. I love the 14.
I agree.
I my shot 14 for with Sony yours.
Yeah, you like that, right?
I love it. I used it for portrait. I used it for... I just used it. I was at the balloon races, so anything with that 14 was crazy. Mm-hmm. But the Boeing's nuts. Like, anything, like, it's just weird. Make limbs look really long, and...
Oh, yeah.
Portraits are strange, but...
That's my bread and butter for my nighttime stuff.
When you get creative.
All day. Oh, yeah.
And then, nighttime stuff... anything landscape,
especially because it's 1.4, like just ridiculous.
Right.
And that lens was only like I think it was $14.99 when I bought it.
Yeah,
completely worth it.
Yeah,
and it's because of the way I'd wheel and deal when it comes to things. It's the only lens that I paid full price for. Mm-hmm. That's how much I wanted it. That's how bad I wanted it, mm-hmm. and it was sold out all the time because it's amazing. And I worked at the store and I was like, you know what? Go on,
right?
Go on, get my pocket. Had to.
Right, and I think the Laoway has almost an equivalent. I don't know if it's a prime, though.
They have a 12 as well.
I'm gonna stick the 12 and the 16 into these focal range too, because they do have those primes, but they're really
we're just
similar.
Splitting hairs between 10, 12, and 14 though. For me, so the 105. The 105 is another lens. Like for me, a 105 would kind of fill if you don't have a 100. A lot of those lenses are also being marketed as macro lenses, even though they're not technically macro lens. When you look at a lens and it says macro, it technically means it just focuses. You're able to focus closer to a subject than a normal lens. I mean, I've seen older 70 to 200s that have macro written, and I'm like,
yeah.
I mean, I guess, but not the same detail. So yeah, for this one, like I don't have a whole lot of experience with 105s. The 105s that I have used are macro lenses, and again, it'll never beat a 100 to me.
And I think if we're going, well, when we tackle zoom lenses, this already falls into a range of a zoom lens that we'll choose.
Yes.
So there would be no need for us to ever go into a prime 105.
I agree.
As much of it is a good lens. Mm-hmm. There are counterparts to that would be better.
Right. I agree.
So the 14 has such a staple with landscape, and for getting into that aperture range of a 1.4.
Right.
Just so much light that you can let into your lens that's never really built into something this big.
Right.
Like I put it on my camera, it was this, like literally the tiniest
light.
Thing.
And the thing is light.
Super light.
And 1.4 is almost all the way like wide open.
Right.
So, okay, so for this one, I think I'm going to have to go with the 14.
I'm also on the 14. All right. So we're 1, 2, 3, 4, of course.
Yep.
I mean, it's funny.
I was looking at this and I was like, yeah.
There are a lot of lenses out there, but when you get to the nitty gritty, these are the lenses that we would use the most. Outright, like, hey, this is like our staple and what our bags would be. And I think these top 4 are actually what our bags would look like if we had all the money in the world. For prime lenses, at least. Let's do the 2 versus the 4 seed, which is the 50 versus the 14. I know.
Yeah.
The 50 is such a beginner, like, hey, I want you to get into photography. If you want a cheap, really nice lens, like, hey, 50 millimeter 1.4 or 1.8.
I feel like 50 is a great starter lens, but it can be used throughout your entire level of.
Right.
But the 14 millimeter. The 14 millimeter for me is a very advanced lens.
Yeah.
Because you have to know how to use it. So let's take away, if you're okay with it, I think we should take away like level advantage in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like beginner versus advanced. So let's just pretend that everybody is
equal playing field.
Knows how to use everything. Exactly. I got to say 14 and hear me out because again, 50 millimeter is great, but I personally think the 35 and the 85 do a better job at that.
I agree.
Which is the only reason why I choose the 14, because if you a 14 prime, it's a 14 prime.
Dude. The 14s, I think you can get really creative on.
Yeah.
The even angles that you can capture, the way you can down low shooting up. When I was at the balloon races and I shot a model, literally I had her like she's standing like right in front of me.
That's such a good shot, by the way.
And I'm just like,
you have to put it in the video.
Yeah, I will.
It's such a good. I love that shot so much. That's one of my favorites.
It's when you let me shoot with it. Oh man,
I think you shot all my lenses so far.
I don't think so.
You haven't shot my 35 yet.
I haven't shot the 35.
You shot my 100-400. You shot the 70-200. Mm-hmm. You shot my. You have a 24-70.
I have a 24-70.
16-35. You haven't shot yet.
But I've shot a 17 to whatever the Tamron equivalent.
The 17 to
close.
17 to 40. 17 to 40.
I don't remember. 16 to 35.
There's a 16 to 35, and there's a
17 to
40.
I don't know. We'll look it up. Yeah. We'll look it up in the zoom lenses. But I don't know. This is a tough one because if we wanted to go the variety of shot, yes, you get so much from the 14 too. The 50 is so, I don't want to say, it's basic.
Well, and that's another reason why I chose it.
And I think like when you get into the depths of photography, you start to experience like, oh, I'm getting down low for the shot. Oh, I'm going up high for the shot. Let me shoot it at this angle. Different angles. The 50 is so flat. Not to hate on the 50, but 50 is very flat. I don't feel like if I go down on the 50, I'm getting the perfect angle that I want.
Yep.
If I'm going up on the 50, I'm not getting enough. It's on that cusp of being good for street, but not good for street.
It's honestly the only reason that I have to say the 14, like I said, is because while the 50 is great, I personally just think that the 35 and 85 can do all of that better.
Right.
But when it comes to 14, you're not really going to beat that much.
I had such a fun time with the 14. I think personal experience using it was like a joy.
You were genuinely excited when you came over to pick that up.
Yeah. That was fun. Yeah, 14. I guess 14 moves on. That's the number 4 seed. It's in the semifinals.
Look at
little man.
Go.
Yeah,
look at the 14 duo on the 16. I like it.
All right, big boys in the portrait modes. 35 versus the 85.
I was worried about that.
This is a tough one too. Yeah,
I already have which one I want to say.
I have mine too.
All right, on 3.
Yeah,
1, 2,
35.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and the reason I think personally the reason I think we said that is because while the 85 does give you more compression, it isn't amazing. It's generally going to be heavier. It's going to be way more expensive. The 35 mil breaks that 10-foot kind of personal bubble that you want to have with your clients to get that intimate look. 85s are great though. Don't get me wrong. Like I love them, but yeah, 35. I have to.
Variety of shot. Talking about the 35 full body versus you can get in tight, almost get the 85 look, but you're just going to be really close to your subject.
Right.
Just cropping in. And we talked about having that personal experience with the subject. Mm-hmm. Love that.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm shooting in a studio, 35 is pretty good because I don't have to stand super far back. Studio lighting works really well with that lower aperture. The 85 I think it's just too tight for a space like this.
Because generally in a studio, you're going to run a 24-70 or a 35 mil.
Right.
So 85 is going to make you stand back far enough, and you have to back further.
And
if you don't have a studio that's big enough for it, then you have to adjust the lights too. Yeah. And honestly, at a certain point too, with that 85, like you also got to take into consideration running like a full size backdrop. Mm-hmm. You're going to be clipping corners, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So 35 for sure.
Love the 85 though.
Same.
85 will live on in my bag if I ever get one again. But I will get a 35 before that because 35s are bread and butter. The 1 seed versus the 4 seed, 35 versus the 14. 35.
Yeah. That one's not.
I feel like this was the.
I knew going into this when I saw these lists. I already knew. I know which. I
know which one I'm going to do. Zoom too.
It's.
I think Zoom will have a little tighter one. Yeah, there's two in the Zoom. Yeah. I know there's one sitting next to us, and there's one sitting next to us.
Yeah, there's two sitting next to us.
There's two sitting next to us. There's one sitting on this side and two sitting on this side.
Spoilers.
And that's not the little mug that everybody has. They base the mug off of.
I know. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
But prime 35 millimeter to life.
Right. Again, we're not choosing it because that's the name, but it is, guys. 35 is just. It's the
great. Bread. It's the bread and butter.
You can do landscapes. You can do portraits. You can do all kinds of stuff with it, and I love it. Go Sigma.
35 is so good.
So 35 wins.
I think 35 wins the Zoom.
35 wins the prime.
The prime. They win the prime.
Woo!
They win the primary. Woo! 35.
Well,
yeah, 35 is so bread and butter.
Classic.
For the price pointings too, if you go 1.8, it's not super expensive.
Right.
You want the little 1.4, you pay a little bit more, but
worth it.
Quality, worth it.
And also, guys, don't forget, you can just go to your local camera store, and most of them will rent you these lenses so you can try them out first. Action Camera does do that.
Yeah.
Action Camera Reno and Roseville both have a rental department, and
they
you guys can just go in.
These.
Just tell them that Mike and DJ sent you from the podcast. They will take very good care of you. Everybody that works in both stores are phenomenal. So don't hesitate. They're very friendly. They'll never look down on you. Aaron and I might talk like a little bit of smack to you, but it's not because we're picking on you. It's just because we're bonding with you. It's not so what we do with friends. Yeah, maybe.
35 mil. Yeah.
Aaron's like, I'm listening, you son of a bitch. So 35 wins that one.
35
so
wins.
Here's another thing too.
This is the hardest. The hardest part is when we have the Zoom versus the Prime in the finals. But we'll get there.
That is what I'm worried about. But we're at about an hour right now.
We just hit an hour.
Look at us go.
We're doing it.
Proud of us. All right, so
dude, 35, winner of the Prime.
Proud of it.
Very good.
Good
Love
job.
it. It's so good.
If you guys have questions about 35s, like which ones to do for which camera, please let us know. We'll give you our opinions on that as well. And again, guys, whenever we give you guys our opinion, please do your own research, because what Mike and I might think is completely different what you might think.
Indeed.
For your own reasons. And nobody is wrong when it comes to this. I say that, but if you're using a 100-400 for macro photography, you're wrong. Sorry. But most of the other stuff, not wrong. So just keep that in mind. So 35 mil wins?
35 mil wins.
Outstanding.
The versatility, the name of our podcast,
the
price range, how long it'll stay in my bag is probably forever.
And it's a classic.
It's a
film
classic.
days. Like it is 35 millimeter is the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I think next week's gonna be a lot harder.
It's gonna be a lot harder.
Zooms. Primes are very much niche.
Yes.
So 35.
It's going to be very difficult for this.
Yeah. 35 portrait, 35 landscape, 35 for everything. All around, I love the 35.
I agree. 35 millimeter all day. So, yeah. So let us know in the comments
if you agree, if you disagree.
And if you guessed right that you thought that was going to be the winner, that's awesome too.
Freaking violent reactions to any of these things.
We're gonna try and set up the lenses on the screen, not the lens, but like the names on the screen, so you guys kind of keep track in real time, because we throw a lot of numbers out there. And while it may make sense to he and I, it could be German to other people. So
it is German to a lot of people.
It's true,
but they still listen.
They do, and I appreciate that wholeheartedly. I do. I've been getting a lot of really good feedback about our podcast. So. It's all thanks to you guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
So if you made it this far, proud of you. Appreciate it. I hope you guys got the answer right. If you guys have another answer, like you said, let us know. Next week is going to be the zoom lenses.
Zoom lenses. Here we go.
That's going to be fun.
All right.
We'll see you guys next week.
Later.